Eventually, Rick finds an opportunity to escape, and finally does something that the main show has always teased but never committed to. He cuts off his own hand and uses one of the burning walkers to cauterize the wound. Oh, how I missed this, man. That was fucking gay. Why would you... That... Gay! The loss of Rick's hand was one hell of a way to open the show, if you ask me, since this is something that the main show had constantly avoided because they just didn't want to pay for the CG for the rest of the show. Now, for those unaware, in the comics, Rick loses his hand to the governor, which was very early on in the story, but the show opted not to do this for simplicity's sake. This was probably something that they wanted to adapt from the start, but just couldn't for budgetary reasons. But there have always been teases throughout the show about Rick's hand, where he would constantly injure it in various ways, meaning they could include some of the one-handedness, if you will, without making it mad expensive. And hell, even after Rick left the show, Aaron was given a full redesign to look pretty much exactly like comic Rick, including the missing hand, which they can now get away with because they could just cover it with a prosthetic instead of paying for CGI.
So, that's awesome.
I like that Towel fully commits to the hand, indicating that not only is this show not afraid of doing shit like this, you know, permanent things that cannot be taken back, which the spin-offs are sometimes opposed to doing, but that they are also willing to adapt comic material, which none of the other spin-offs have been given the opportunity to do so far. Granted, the definition of adapting comic material is very loose here, since the contexts are entirely different, but you get the idea. And actually, I think I like this version of Rick losing the hand way better than the comic version. You know, in the comics, the governor just kind of chops it off as like a power move, you know, to show Rick that he's crazy and not to be fucked with. Look how that turned out. And this might just be me looking way too deep into it, but when this happens, Michonne is the first person to come to Rick's defense. So including this in Towel might have been something of a reference. But in The Ones Who Live, the fact that Rick does it himself for the sole purpose of getting back to his family, I think says way more about Rick's character. It displays the level of dedication that he has to escaping and getting home, which is extremely important to establish right off the bat, since much of the rest of this episode is about how the CRM manages to break him. So in simpler terms, comic Rick's hand was kind of senseless. Show Rick's hand, it's got symbolism to it. Bars.